I'm about as real as they come.
All my beats tailored by Joe. House Digital.
Maserati Rick in Detroit. Convertible bird in Miami. Graduated summa cum laude. Strip club made a tsunami. Carlton Hines with the ball game. Grateful Edmonds with the snowflakes. Craig Pettis in the M-Town. Sal Magluta with the boat game. Falcone with the cocaine. Like Freeway Ricky with the plug game. Like Monster Cody in South Central. Larry Davis from close range.
Imagine getting a hotel room and gang members are stashing drugs, guns, and money in the room right next to you.
That's what detectives say members of a Fort Myers gang were doing at local hotels. 4 in Your Corner's Deborah Souverain telling us how detectives were able to uncover this very dangerous technique. She joins us live in the studio tonight. Deborah?
Amy and Patrick, detectives uncovered that technique during a 14-month investigation into the Fort Myers gang known as the Lake Boys. Now, many of the gang's drug houses were already under surveillance by detectives, but authorities learned one gang member was using hotels as a cover to sell drugs and store weapons. Now, according to detectives, a gang member would pick out specific hotels based on their location. 2 rooms were rented. One room, which was described as the base, was filled with guns and most of the drugs they plan to sell. The second room is where the actual drug sales would happen. Now, it's not clear where the hotels were located. However, detectives say it was just one of many techniques the gang used to sell their drugs. Earlier this month, 21 members of the Lake Boys gang was arrested on multiple charges, including racketeering. In studio, Deborah Souverain, Fox 4, in your corner.
Several suspected gang members off the streets of Fort Myers tonight after a 7-month investigation. Police say a task force made up of Fort Myers police officers and FBI agents arrested 5 members of the Lake Boys for their roles in several violent crimes in the Harlem Heights area. The Lake Boys are a notorious gang in the Fort Myers area. Police say all their hard work paid off.
Legal activity. I mean, these individuals that we're working on in this organization are the most violent, the ones that are causing all these problems in our city. So what we're doing is we have identified them. Obviously, we were able to indict them federally, and now we're arresting them for that.
Tonight, 5 other suspects are still on the loose, so if you have any information, you can call Crime Stoppers at 1-800-780.
Good afternoon. It's 12 o'clock, and we begin at noon with breaking news out of Fort Myers. A year-long investigation culminates with the arrest of dozens of suspected gang members. Detectives announced the bust within the last hour at police headquarters. NBC2 anchor Stacey Deffenbaugh is live with details of the operation. Stacey, these guys are connected to a lot of violent crimes.
Chad, they really are. We just heard from the new police chief of Fort Myers moments ago, Derek Diggs. He confirmed for us 23 documented gang members off of our local streets. Chief Diggs calling these individuals violent and telling me our local streets are much safer because they are locked up at this hour. They're calling it Operation Great Lakes. 23 people arrested and sitting in a jail cell today. 11 of them hunted down early Thursday morning in Southwest Florida by Fort Myers police officers and U.S. Marshals. They started their mission at 4 a.m.
State Attorney Steve Russell also attending that news conference that we attended in the last hour. Mr. Russell explaining they are charged officially with racketeering or RICO. I can tell you it's a legal theory that is not used or applied often here in Southwest Florida. It's very complex and very intricate. It's been a long time in the making. Coming up tonight at 5 o'clock, the news at 4 and 5 o'clock, we're going to hear more from State Attorney Steve Russell about that charge and why specifically they decided to go that route in this case. Also more from Chief Diggs on the cooperation of local community members and what he is hoping that this encourages more folks to step forward and to turn in any folks committing crimes in our community. And also more of that exclusive video, you just saw some of it there, of NBC2 cameras along with these folks, the marshals and the Fort Myers police officers as they started their sweep early yesterday morning at 4 a.m. We have much more coming up for you later today in our broadcast. For now, we are live outside of the Fort Myers Police Headquarters. I'm Stacey Deffenbaugh, NBC2.
Great work, Stacey.
The arrests that have occurred over the past 24 hours are just another phase of the investigation. It is not the end.
Cracking down on crime. Fort Myers police and the state attorney busting nearly 24 documented members of a notorious gang with a history of violent crime in the Harlem Lakes area. This 2-year investigation targeting a group known as the Lake Boys.
Now, investigators are saying 21 members, suspected members of that gang, are facing charges ranging from heroin trafficking to aggravated assault. And at least 2 suspects are still on the loose tonight. 4 in Your Corner, Stephanie Tinoco, live at police headquarters with more on this operation tonight. Stephanie?
Well, Patrick and Amy, Chief Diggs explained that the Lake Boys have been tormenting people living in the Harlem Lakes community for years. Now, he says that this was a very time-consuming and manpower-intensive investigation.
George Crawford has been living in this Harlem Lakes community since 1969 and tells me he's tired of violence gripping his community.
I've just seen a lot of tragedy, a lot of death.
But tonight he'll sleep a little easier knowing 21 members of the Fort Myers gang Lake Boys, who caught the attention of police in this YouTube video, are now behind bars.
They don't have any value on life anymore. I mean, whatever comes to their corrupt mind, that's what they do.
They've been here since the 90s.
After a 14-month investigation, Operation Great Lakes, the Fort Myers Police Department and the state attorney's office revealed the faces of the men they say have held Harlem Lakes hostage.
Started at like about 4:30 in the morning. And before I had a chance to even get out to the command post, all these individuals were in custody. That's how smooth this operation went.
Police busted the Lake Boys by applying a state law designed to crack down on organized crime. It's called the RICO statute.
That we use RICO in prosecutions, but we thought that this was a way to look at it out of the frustration of some of the cases where we couldn't quite get there because we didn't have the evidence we needed to support them.
While these arrests are just a phase of a lengthy investigation, people say they're looking forward to peace to come.
We don't know how long it's going to last, but we hope that it will send a message that, hey, this is not the way to make it.
Rivals to this organization, like the chief said, if you want to continue to do what you're doing, you're next. And we'll come after you, and we're not going to stop.
Now, the state attorney and the chief both emphasized while they don't solely depend on eyewitnesses, they hope that this will encourage people to come forward with any information from past investigations or past crimes, I should say, without the fear of threats or retaliation. Reporting live in Fort Myers, Stephanie Tinoco, Fox 4, in your corner.
NFL player Sammy Watkins is offering to post the $1 million bond for his brother, an alleged gang member. Fort Myers police arrested Jari McMiller and 24 others for racketeering in a massive sweep a couple of weeks ago. All alleged members of the Lake Boys gang. As NBC2's Jacqueline Beavis reports, McMiller is still in jail despite his brother's offer to pay the bond.
Arrested alongside almost 24 other men, Jari McMiller faces charges of racketeering, accused of being a member of the Lee County gang, the Lake Boys.
This is a very serious threat to the community.
A probable cause affidavit accused McMiller and others of committing violent crimes together as part of their gang affiliation.
This is an ongoing crime, and the acts of one become the acts of all.
With a bond of $1 million, all of the arrested are still locked up, but McMiller's brother, Buffalo Bills wide receiver Sammy Watkins, is ready to pay.
This is an affidavit from Mr. Sammy Watkins indicating under oath that he would be posting the bond in this case.
The state believes Watkins must come to Lee County to answer questions about how he has that much money available to get McMiller out. But the defense believes even if they want to ask, the court can't hold McMiller after he's already paid the money.
There is nothing at all to support the proposition in state court that a criminal defendant can be detained pending some kind of nebia hearing.
Leaving the decision to the judge, who declined to reduce the bond, but says a hearing, once it's paid, should answer some questions.
He can set it for a hearing with me or whoever the first appearance judge is at that time if I'm unavailable.
It's just not clear what or who will be needed as evidence for how it got paid. In Lee County, Jacqueline Beavis, NBC2.
A major step forward in curbing the violence in Fort Myers.
Something has happened on all of the streets out here.
Potentially derailed because of the officers involved in the criminal cases. The NBC2 investigators uncovered several Fort Myers police officers placed on leave after a scathing report on the department are potential witnesses in the Lake Boys cases.
The arrest of those 23 documented gang members was one of the biggest crackdowns on crime by the department in the last decade. New at 6, NBC2 investigator David Hodges is questioning what it means for those cases.
Well, I've confirmed at least 3 officers put on leave after the release of this free report are connected to these Lake Boys cases. I spent days uncovering exactly how they're involved. It was the peak of the violence problem in Fort Myers, September 23rd, 2015. One night, 7 people shot. 2 of them in Harlem Lakes on Davis Court, what FMPD calls the headquarters of a gang called the Lake Boys.
To hear a gunshot, that's nothing new.
Barbara Williams used to live in Harlem Lakes. Her mom still does, just 2 blocks off Davis Court.
I don't want my mom to die by a bullet that was not even meant for her. I know something needs to be done because it's gotten real bad.
City leaders demanded an end to the violence.
I'm reaching out to the most sophisticated advisors in law enforcement.
Talk need to cease and actions need to be taken.
And that is where the case began, and it's all laid out right here. NBC2 got a hold of a deposition between attorneys for the Lake Boys and the lead detective for the case for FMPD, Detective Wolfgang Daniel. Under oath, he said that in December of 2015, then Acting Chief Dennis Eads requested we do something about the gang problem. They decided to focus on the Lake Boys gang because they were the most notorious in the community. In January 2016, they discussed doing small drug buys or doing a large investigation. Daniel says eventually we were told that if we can do a long-term investigation, to do one. After a year of gathering social media surveillance and compiling criminal histories, in January, FMPD arrested 23 alleged members of the Lake Boys. The state attorney's office filed racketeering charges. Williams says while all the crime hasn't stopped, it has made a difference.
Some days it's quiet like this. Now tonight might be a whole nother story.
The story for FMPD was far from over. 1 month after the arrest, 5 officers were put on leave after allegations in an audit called the Free Report detailed corruption and a toxic culture. For the first time, NBC2 has identified 3 of those officers are listed as having information relevant to the Lake Boys case. Sergeant Michael Forbes, Officer Jason Jackson, and Sergeant Richard Notaro. Attorney Jerry Olivo represents Jonathan Griffin, one of the alleged Lake Boys suspects.
Some of these officers may have played a greater role in an individual co-defendant's case, more so than perhaps another co-defendant.
Sergeant Richard Notaro appears to have been the most influential. According to the lead investigator, Notaro oversaw the unit the whole time, told the unit to do the long-term investigation, decided they would not contact FDLE for assistance, reviewed social media of the Lake Boys, and has conducted previous investigations into the Lake Boys that were less successful.
You have to look at first the nature of their misconduct to see if it has any appreciable effect on the investigation or the case.
In my opinion, I think all the officers are credible. I don't know that it would impact.
Attorney Robert Barant represents 4 of the officers on leave. He says they don't know the allegations against them, but they maintain they've done nothing wrong. He says putting these officers on leave during the Lake Boys case could backfire.
I don't think this was a very good move on the part of the city in the middle of this investigation. I don't think anybody thought it through.
In a statement, Fort Myers Police Lieutenant Jay Rodriguez says the Fort Myers Police Department stands by the case and the peace it has brought the Harlem Lakes community. FMPD still refuses to discuss why these 5 officers were placed on leave. For the NBC2 investigators, I'm David Hodges.
Call, email, or download the NBC2 News app and submit your tip now.
Yo, we back. It's your boy Popalot. Mobb ties. We on our way to Florida with it. Lee County to be more exact. Now, all my niggas from Lee County, y'all niggas get in the comment box, let it be known real shit. I know how y'all niggas give it up. Now, the guys that we're going to be covering today is going to be an organization by the name of the Lake Boys. Now, from my understanding, the Lake Boys been in existence since the 90s, and they just carried over to the 2000s. They're going to be similar to like some of the other groups that we covered on Mobb Ties, whereas with the emergence of social media, you will get a lot of, they gained a lot of attention for things that they did over social media, to be honest. What really brought them to my attention, upon doing my research, I noticed that one of the members was a brother to Sammy Watkins, former Buffalo Bills football player. I want to say former Rams football player. And it was a lot of controversy over him actually trying to bail his brother out on $1 million bail, where he was pretty much saying he had the money, and they was questioning the money or how he would have that money. He would have to be at the hearing to bail him out. So it's just a bunch of wild shit. And not only that, certain officers that was working the case ended up being put on leave, on administrative leave for some other shit that go on. So that just threw that on top of the case. Anybody with any info, man, as far as like how the neighborhoods was this shit real like they said it was? Y'all niggas get in the comment box. Y'all make sure y'all follow me on Twitter, on Instagram. It's your boy Popalot, POP_A_LOT. Y'all make sure y'all hit the bell and subscribe for that real shit. Y'all want to know when it's dropping. I'm gonna be back with some more Mobb ties.
A well-known Fort Myers gang called the Lake Boys used social media to spread their influence, according to court documents. Investigators say music videos posted to YouTube, which feature some of the gang's members, were one of the tools the gang used to expand their criminal enterprise. In a 204-page arrest affidavit, detectives detailed evidence which revealed the inner workings of what they call a loosely organized criminal ring. The findings of the 14-month investigation by the Fort Myers Police Department led to the arrest of 21 Lake Boys on January 19, a case which involved the Racketeer-Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. Monday, 15 Lake Boys gang members were arraigned in Lee County Court on multiple charges including racketeering, mugshots, Operation Great Lakes arrests. According to detectives, the gang has roots in the Harlem Lakes neighborhood in Dunbar. However, their crimes, which range from car burglaries to murders, spread throughout Lee County. Detectives say the Lake Boys use social media to gain influence the way prior gangs used graffiti. Hashtags such as Lake Boys Baby or Great Lakes Baby are used by gang members and associates on social media sites. The Lake Boys also have a community Facebook page which had over 160 likes. Investigators used 4 informants to gather intel on the gang. One of the informants was a documented Lake Boys member who told detectives members of the Lake Boys organization were able to gain respect by shooting at people, an act gang members reportedly referred to as wild and crazy. According to the affidavit, when dealing with gang rivalries, gang members, associates or family members would drive by a rival gang's turf to see if they were outside so that they can then shoot at them shortly after. Authorities say members often used coded language such as KOS, an acronym which means kill on sight. Detectives say Lake Boys would use the acronym to warn or intimidate rival gang members. Another term often used was 12, which is used to alert other members of the presence of law enforcement. Gang members also use an L hand symbol to show their affiliation to the gang. Detectives say the gang sign stands for Lake Boys or Harlem Lakes. The Lake Boys have been around since 1993 and consists of over 30 members and associates according to detectives. A 2-year operation coordinated between the state attorney's office and Fort Myers Police Department resulted in the arrest of 21 men who authorities said were members of the Lake Boys gang. The state attorney brought racketeering charges against all 21 men and said the mass arrests were the result of the creation of the Racketeering Gang Task Force. More than 50 officers were involved from Fort Myers, U.S. Marshals, Lee County deputies and the FBI. Law enforcement began the arrests around 4 a.m. Thursday with 11 men found in Lee County. State Attorney Steve Russell said they don't use the RICO charge often. In most cases, it is used for organized crime. This group has targeted the Harlem Lakes community for years, Fort Myers Police Chief Derek Diggs. We hope this initiative will give the Harlem Lakes community some peace. Those arrested will make their first appearance before a judge Friday. This is just the tip to the iceberg of the type of work and things we are going to be doing in the future to protect this community, Diggs said. Now more than ever we need the help of the good citizens to come forward and tell us what they know about crimes that have occurred and start working with us. The Lake Boys produced a controversial rap video 6 years ago, flashing an AK-47 and handguns. The lyrics were violent and offensive. They went on to make several more videos. Additionally, authorities targeted the Lake Boys in 2014 with sweeps and 8 men were arrested. There are 23 suspects involved in the operation, but one of them is deceased and another is at large. Legal experts are weighing in after the Fort Myers Police Department arrested more than 24 members of the Lake Boys gang last month by applying a state law designed to crack down on organized crime. While some praise FMPD for using the RICO Act to get the gang off the streets, Others are critical, saying the blanket charges may be going too far. RICO, which stands for Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, is a federal provision used to extend criminal charges to parties acting as part of a criminal organization. The scary part for the individuals in jail is that they're being charged for a crime they've never even heard of before. Their bond is $1 million, said Scott Goldberg, a Fort Myers attorney. Plus, a conviction could mean 20 years in prison for those individuals now facing racketeering charges under the provision. It's for a broad act that's got a lot of players, and individually you couldn't get every one of them on their own, but by throwing out the net you can get a whole lot of them, said Joe D'Alessandro, a former prosecutor with the state attorney's office. Goldberg says the federal provision, meant to go after organized crime organization, is now being used by state governments to control gang problems. When you see it in a state court and you see it with this magnitude, with the amount of people that were arrested, it's a big deal, Goldberg said. Goldberg is representing the Lee County NAACP as some of the arrestees' families turn to the group. I don't think anybody has seen enough information to make a determination of whether it's being abused or not abused in this situation, Goldberg said. Critics to the RICO Act also say the sweep may be too extreme. No African American in their reasonable mind believes all 27 of those men are guilty of racketeering. Some may be, said James Muwakil, Lee County NAACP president. Ultimately, the burden of proof falls on the state, attorneys say. I think for the community it's a good move, said D'Alessandro. Law enforcement is trying to be proactive, not reactive, he added. For more information, please follow the link below the video.